Magic Tea House, Book Number 52. A Merlin Mission. Soccer on Sunday, by Mary Pope Osborne. Chapter 1. Seriously? Slowly and carefully, Jack ran his hands over the face of the stony cliff. His fingers gripped ridges and bumps. He lodged his bare toes into cracks in the rock. He knew he had to get to the top. He pushed with his legs and pulled with his hands. He was almost there. He reached up and grabbed the overhang of the cliff. The wind screamed and blew against Jack, knocking him off balance. His feet slipped. He was dangling by one hand. Jack! Jack opened his eyes. It was dark. He could faintly see Annie in the moonlight. "Annie," he whispered. "We have to go," she said. "Have to get down," said Jack. He closed his eyes. He was still hanging from the cliff. Annie shook his shoulder. "Jack, wake up!" "Oh, whoa." Jack sat straight up. "Oh man, I was hanging from a cliff in Egypt. You were dreaming about our last mission," interrupted Annie. "Remember, you were hanging from a cliff, but everything turned out okay. We saved Coco. Remember the little baboon?" Right, breathed Jack. He rubbed his eyes and looked at Annie. "What's going on? What time is it? Why are you awake?" "We have to go to the woods," said Annie. "It's back." "How do you know?" said Jack. "I couldn't sleep," said Annie. "I was looking out my window and saw the streak of light. That's it," said Jack, jumping out of bed. "Let's go. Are Mom and Dad awake?" "No, if we leave now, we'll be back before they get up," said Annie. "Meet you outside." She slipped out of Jack's room. Jack didn't even turn on his light. He changed into a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. He pulled on his socks and sneakers. He threw his notebook and pencil into his backpack. Then he tiptoed down the hall, down the stairs, and out the front door. Annie was waiting on the porch. The sun was about to rise, and birds had started to chirp in the warm summer dawn. "Ready?" Jack whispered. Jack and Annie left the front porch and stepped lightly over the wet grass of their front yard. They hurried up the sidewalk and crossed the street into the Frog Creek woods. As they walked between the dark trees, the purple-blue sky overhead was growing lighter. Bird song filled the woods. "I wonder where we'll go today," said Jack. "And what will be the secret of greatness that makes the ring of truth glow?" Annie said. Then she began to speak in a dramatic voice, like a TV announcer. "What amazing person will Jack and Annie meet today?" Jack laughed, then spoke dramatically too. "And when will they sniff the mist gathered at first light on the first day of the new moon on the Isle of Avalon? And when they do, what great talent will they choose for themselves?" said Annie. Jack laughed again and shook his head. "Our lives are kind of crazy," said Annie. "You think?" said Jack. The chorus of birds grew louder as the pale gold of dawn filtered down through the trees. When Jack and Annie came to the tallest oak in the woods, they looked up into the branches. The magic tea house was outlined against the sky. Without a word, Annie grabbed the rope ladder and started up. Jack followed. Jack and Danny climbed into the shadowy tea house. A ray of sunlight slanted through a window. It shone directly on a sheet of paper lying on the wooden floor. On the paper, Jack had written the secrets of greatness they had learned on their last 3 missions: humility, hard work, meaning and purpose. A gold ring, a tiny bottle, and a yellowed scroll lay next to the paper. Jack picked up the scroll, unrolled it, and read aloud. Dear Jack and Danny, I hope you enjoyed traveling to Egypt and learning the 3rd secret of greatness from Florence Nightingale. Now you must learn the 4th from one of the finest athletes of all time, Pele the Great. Pele the Great? Said Jack. He was a brilliant soccer player from Brazil. I know. Coach Cooney told us all about him, said Annie. This is so cool, said Jack. Wait, said Annie. There's more. When you complete your mission, please come to Camelot before you return home. So we're going to Camelot, said Jack. Yep, said Annie. And I wonder if we're going to Brazil too. She and Jack looked around the tea house for a book that would help them on their journey. There, said Annie. She picked up a pamphlet lying in a shadowy corner. I don't believe it. What? Said Jack. Look, Annie handed him the pamphlet. The World Cup, said Jack. That's the biggest sports event on the planet. I know, said Annie. Look, it's in Mexico. I've always wanted to go to Mexico. When she opened the pamphlet, she gasped. And look what Merlin gave us. She held up 2 purple tickets. Mexico 70 final? Said Jack, reading a ticket. There are lots of games during the World Cup, but there's only one final. Thank you, Merlin, said Annie with a laugh. So Pele must be playing in the final, Jack said. Yep. Annie shoved their tickets in her back pocket. Don't forget this, said Jack. He grabbed the small bottle lying on the floor and held it up to the sunlight. Sparkling mist swirled inside. Mist gathered at first light on the first day of the new moon on the Isle of Avalon, Jack said. Whenever he and Annie breathed in the mist and made a wish, they magically had a great talent for 1 hour. Jack tucked the bottle into his backpack. Annie picked up the gold ring from the floor. And here's the ring of truth, she said. You get to wear it this time. Just make sure to keep your eye on it when we're with Pele. Don't worry, said Jack as he slipped the ring onto his finger. The ring of truth would shine with a fiery light when they discovered the 4th secret of greatness. Let's go, said Annie. I still can't believe we're actually headed to Mexico to a final World Cup soccer game to meet Pele the Great, Jack said. I mean, seriously? Seriously, said Annie. Jack pointed at the cover of their program. I seriously wish we could go to Mexico City 1970. The wind started to blow. The tea house started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2. Lucky Ducks. The air in Mexico City was hot, humid, and smoggy. Jack heard screeching car tires, honking horns, and roaring truck motors. He looked at his clothes. He was wearing his own shorts and a t-shirt. Our clothes didn't change, he said. That's because kids wore shorts and t-shirts in the 1970s. Remember the photos of Mom and Dad? Said Annie. Right, said Jack. He and Annie looked out the window. The treehouse had landed in a row of tall, leafy trees lining a busy street. Beyond the branches was a jagged skyline with towers and tall buildings. Below the branches, traffic moved noisily up an avenue. It looks like we landed in the middle of the city, said Jack. He opened their World Cup program to the first page and read, Mexico City is one of the largest cities in the world. Its citizens are overjoyed that their city has been chosen to host the 1970 World Cup Games. Held every 4 years, the games are played for several weeks. This year, 16 countries will compete in the matches to determine the final winner. And we've got tickets to see the final winner, Jack said, grinning. I wonder which two teams will be playing. He thumbed through the booklet and saw page after page of black and white photos of the teams competing in the World Cup games. Mexico, Belgium, Sweden, Israel, Italy, England, Romania, West Germany, Brazil, Annie said, looking over his shoulder. There he is, said Jack. Arantes Nascimento, Pele. Well, we know Brazil made it to the final game or we wouldn't be here, said Annie. But I wonder who they're playing. We'll soon find out. Jack closed the program. As he put it into his backpack, he saw his notebook and pencil, the bottle of magic mist, and some coins and bills inside. Look, Mexican money, pesos. We have 5 and 10 peso coins and bills worth 50 pesos. Sounds like a lot, said Annie. We can buy Mexican food when we get hungry. Tacos, enchiladas, burritos. I love Mexican food. Who doesn't? Jack said. Who doesn't love everything we're about to do? He pulled on his backpack and led the way down the rope ladder. When Jack and Annie reached the ground, they saw a large white building with an American flag. Engraved on the front wall of the building were the words, Embassy of the United States. A uniformed guard stood under a green awning at the entrance. Perfect. We landed in front of the U.S. Embassy, said Jack. Why is that perfect? Asked Annie. A country's embassy is supposed to help its citizens when they visit another country, said Jack. Oh, that is perfect, said Annie. Come on. Jack and Annie headed toward the entrance. Before they got to the door, the guard stepped out from under the awning. Sorry, kids, he said. The embassy is closed on Sundays. The man looked very formal in his blue uniform jacket and white hat and gloves, but he sounded friendly. He spoke with a southern accent. Oh, we were just looking for information, said Jack. We're Americans. Groovy. Where y'all from? The guard asked. We're Jack and Annie from Frog Creek, Pennsylvania, said Annie. I'm Benny from Valdosta, Georgia, said the guard. Pleased to meet you. Hi, Benny, said Jack. We're going to the World Cup game that's being played today, and lucky ducks, Benny broke in. It's going to be the game of a lifetime. Game of a lifetime? Jack said. Today's the final match. Best two teams in the world. Italy playing Brazil, said Benny. Brazil, that's Pele's team, right? Said Jack. Sure is, said Benny. Pele the Great. Jack grinned at Annie. This is so cool, he said. No kidding, said Annie. Y'all seem to really love soccer, said Benny. We do. We love to watch it and play it, said Annie. Well, y'all are unusual, said Benny. Most American kids hardly know anything about soccer. Yeah, right, said Jack. His dad had told them that kids rarely played soccer when he was growing up. Don't worry, said Annie. It'll become more popular with time. In fact, by 2014, excuse me, Jack interrupted. But do you know when the match starts and where it is? Benny looked at his watch. Well, it's almost 10 a.m. now, he said. So you've got 2 hours till kickoff at Aztec Stadium. That's about 10 miles south of here. 10 miles? Said Jack. Don't worry, said Benny. Public transportation can get you there pretty fast. Just walk a few blocks to the Metro Insurgentes station. That's where you catch the Metro. Metro? Said Jack. It's like what we'd call a subway chain in the States, said Benny. Y'all need to catch the red line in the direction of Pentathlon. And then, wait please, said Jack. He pulled out his notebook and pencil. Could you spell that? Here, I'll write it down, said the guard. Jack gave his notebook and pencil to Benny. The friendly guard mumbled the directions to himself as he wrote them down. Walk to Metro Insurgentes, then red line to Pino Suarez, then blue line to Taxqueña, last stop, then a tram to Aztec Stadium. It sounds complicated, said Jack. Just ask somebody if you get lost, said Benny. Folks here are super nice. They'll be glad to help. The guard handed the notebook and pencil back to Jack. Thanks, said Jack. He tore out the sheet with Benny's directions and put it in the pocket of his shorts. I hope y'all have seats for the game, said Benny. From what I hear, it's completely sold out. Don't worry, we have tickets, said Annie. She showed them to Benny. Far out, said Benny. Y'all have two of the best seats in the house. Really? Said Jack. He couldn't believe it. How in the world did you get these? Said Benny. Annie shrugged. We know somebody who knows somebody, she said. Well, don't let anybody see those tickets, said Benny. People would sell their mothers for those seats. Annie laughed as she put the tickets back in her pocket. So how do we get to the Metro train, Benny? She asked. Go up this street to the big statue of the angel, turn left onto Florencia, and after a couple of blocks, ask somebody to direct you to Insurgentes. That's Insurgentes, said the guard, sounding out the word. Thanks, Benny. You've been a big help, said Annie. Yeah, thanks, said Jack. You're welcome, any time, said the guard. Jack put the program, notebook, and pencil back into his backpack. Then he and Annie waved goodbye and headed away from the embassy. When they got to the sidewalk, they looked up and down the busy avenue. There's the angel, said Annie. She pointed to the huge statue of a winged angel looming in the distance. Good, it's not that far, said Jack. The air was hot and humid and smelled like car exhaust. But Jack was so excited, nothing bothered him as he and Danny walked past banks, airline offices, and fancy hotels. When they reached the Golden Angel in the middle of a traffic circle, Jack checked Benny's directions, then looked around. "There it is," he said, pointing to a sign that said Florencia Avenue. They hurried across the street and headed up Florencia. "Benny said that when we get to this street, we should ask someone for help," said Annie. "Excuse me," she said to a woman waiting at a stoplight. "Could you please tell us where we can find—" She turned to Jack. "What was the name?" "Insurgentes," Jack said, sounding it out like Benny had. "Yes," said the woman with a smile. "Just past Laundries Street." She pointed straight ahead. "Thank you," said Annie. She and Jack started walking again. "I can't believe this. We have the best seats in the stadium," Jack said. "It makes sense," said Annie. "Merlin gave us those seats to help us with our mission." "Right, like maybe Pele will be playing near us and we'll get to meet him," said Jack. "Then somehow he'll reveal a secret of greatness. And then we go back to Camelot to meet up with Merlin." "We're super lucky ducks," said Annie. "Quack, quack,"